bridge the gap between technology, music, and arts, and break down the barriers to entry and have conversations around all of those things. And so we're so pleased to be back in person. And yeah, I have a few questions for these two amazing artists. Strange Strains and Space Racer are, yeah, I'm going to spare the introduction and just, we had two incredible performances tonight, which, yeah, which you can find on our social media channels, as well as theirs on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. And I kind of want to just dive right into your technical setups. So, Space Racer, do you mind starting? All right, I'm just going to pass this along.
Hey, everybody. So, do you have questions, or you just want me to talk about?
What's going on in your setup?
A lot of things, but not enough. In the same. Well, I just put a new mixer in, so I'm having fun getting to know this new mixer. It's the WMD Performance Mixer. Before that, I had a hex mix, a Bifaco hex mix, and um, trying to perform live with a new mixer that you just put in your case 2 weeks ago is challenging, but it's really fun, and I can't wait to explore all that it has to offer.
What's in your case? I mean, like, top level. Like, it's a modular rig.
It is. It
There's
is.
a lot of cables and
There's a lot, yeah. I mean, it just has a couple oscillators. I've got the. Do you want like specific names or?
just like, I think for anybody who doesn't know what a modular synth case is, just kind of an overview would
Yeah,
be.
I mean, there's just several voices in the case, and those are the oscillators. Those will produce sound, and then it's just a sound that will do really not much unless you modulate it. And so, running through, you send those voices through filters and through, you know, just other modules that help to shape the sounds and help move the sounds along. And yeah, so you can just think of it as, a big synthesizer that has a whole bunch of little, modular components to it, as opposed to, a synth that has everything already in there, which is also really handy sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So then that leads into strange setup, because that is exactly what I was looking for. The difference between a synth, a sampler, a sequencer. Just at that baseline.
Yeah.
So, do you mind telling us about your?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, again for coming. This was fun. Um, so, yeah, I didn't have a big modular setup. My only semi modular, you would call it, would be the Ocos. But you guys know, Brandy explained what a modular synth is. What I was using is the Electron Octatrack. And what that is, it's an 8-track performance sampler. So I have 8 tracks to load up sounds or any beats that I've ever made, and it's kind of like a utility Swiss Army knife. It, however you want to use it, if you know how to use it, like you have your idea right here, it allows you to do that with different machines. And so I'm not sitting there making a patch and setting it like super hard how Space Racer is doing it. I have the really great luxury of presets and save points, so I have the ability to save certain things with the Electron Octatrack saving settings, and it kind of works modular in a way because each track you could change what that track is doing depending on how you want to use the machine. If you want it to just play sample playback, if you want it to affect stuff, if you want to route the audio to another track, you have that ability. So in a sense, you have some customization. That's one of the reasons why I like modular, because you can customize and make your dream synth and just expand on that, everything that you do.
smart enough to figure it out.
There is a steep learning curve with, yeah, especially when you have so many options and different ways of approaching it. But I think that's what I found most interesting, and looking at both of your setups, which anybody who wasn't able to be with us here tonight can see in the live streams, which I think there's just different approaches to it in how you want to control the sound, modulate the sound, process the sound, um, synthesize it or sample it, which leads me to my next question. Brings me to my next question. It's late. We've had fun. What's a sample to you? Like, and what is your favorite thing to sample? Because I feel like that's a bit of a trick question, which I'm asking on purpose. I'm looking at you, Space Racer. But you too. There was a moment in your set that I just loved that like filled my chest with just joy, because it was like something that obviously came from your grandpa. I was like, okay, let's go, Grandpa. And so I just kind of want to talk about sampling a little bit and what it means to you. Yeah.
I can start. Sampling is an art form. I said it. Sampling, I feel like everybody's a walking sampler, human sampler. You go, you watch your favorite movie, listen to your favorite music, you hang out with the people you like hanging out, and you take a little piece of everything that you like and create something that you love. So that's the same thing with the way I approach sampling with music. But basically what a sample is, it's a term used in music when you either record like a performance of a song. For example, Dr. Dre samples a lot of stuff. He'll sample and make beats, but it's also another form where you could sample a composition where you sample their same song, but you play your own instruments and you do that song, kind of like a cover, but in a way not the same. And then there's also like sampling in terms of like a sample instrument where you could like a keyboard where you record ba and then you go ba 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 ba. Yeah.
Preloaded samples, and it's like you think you're playing the Casio.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's actually just playing back samples of stuff. It's not actually.
It's not synthesizing. So with a sample, there's pros and cons. I see everything as a pro because what you're able to do is capture something, steal it, if you want to call it that, and use it for your own benefit. Which is, we got to do that, right? It's America. Nothing wrong with it. Yes. Yeah, and it's nothing wrong with it. If you think about it, if you go back, Jimmy Page sampled his favorite guitarist and played the way he played. Jimi Hendrix sampled his favorite guitarist, played the way he played. All these artists, they take what they love and they take what they like, and then they sample it. It's you're a product of your environment. So that's my spiel on sampling.
Everything you said, and then for me, I sample things in the natural world a lot, so that's what I tend to take away from. I do a lot of field recordings, so I'm out, in the streets, or I do analog space missions, and so you can get some really cool samples walking on lava rocks or going through the airlock or things like that. And so I've actually made a sample pack out of a Mars mission that I was on, and I'm working on another one. But the possibilities are limitless. Anything could be a sample. Breathing. I had samples of my vocals. You can do vocal samples, and then you can splice them up and use them to your effect that you want to make happen. And then I don't do that many samples of other people's music, but that's just because I don't know. I feel like I just make a different kind of music. and that works. And that works for me. It works for my setup. But yeah, sampling is really fun. You can, and there's many samplers that you can load your samples into, and you can, chop them up and make them sound how you want to. So.
Did you have a question for? Oh, we have a question.
I had a question because before I came, I wanted to check out some of your music and I couldn't find any. Where can I?
For mine?
That is like a laugh.
Oh, this is sorry.
Yeah.
It was my first question before I came.
No, that's a really good question, and I'm just teasing you because it's late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you sample things from out what you're doing. Is that what you're using in that box? You're using samples, playing them through?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, some of them I do. Again, some of them maybe you wouldn't even recognize as samples. They can just be like crunchy sounds. Or there was one that I played. It's literally us eating pop rocks. We're eating pop rocks, and we're like, and then you can, and then using different, programs or Ableton or other, if you don't want to use a computer, you can just run that sample through something else and process it, and then make it, fit your song or, yeah. Add a texture, yeah, anything. I mean, like I said, there's no rules and there's no limits to sampling. So, yes.
What do you mean by space mission? What's a space
Yeah, yeah. I as one of my passions is is going to space, and I did apply to NASA last year to be an astronaut, but many people got rejected, along with myself. I think 12,000 applicants, and they only picked 10. I do what's called analog astronaut missions, and that is a way for us to test things that we would test in space, but to do it for a fraction of the cost and much less danger here on Earth. And so there are analog space stations around the world. There's one in Hawaii on Mauna Loa. There's one in Poland, one in Antarctica, and a few others. One in Utah, because it really does look like Mars in Utah. Parts of it. Yeah, and then basically the idea is that you have research that you're working on, and you go in for a certain number of days or weeks, and you live and work like an astronaut. And so it is really awesome. It's fun. And so I've done a couple of those, and I always have my little Zoom recorder, no matter if I'm in my spacesuit or in the airlock or just eating delicious rehydrated food in the kitchen there. So that's provided me a lot of opportunities to get samples that way.
Can't wait for the space samples.
Yeah,
Space
yeah,
samples,
yeah.
the extraterrestrial one. So next question is, what was like the gateway for both of you into getting into hardware sampling, just hardware, software, all of it? Because it sounds like both of you are using a hybrid situation. Whether it's modular pieces of gear that you are interconnecting and synchronizing through MIDI or other protocols, or using a case that has literal modules and filters and oscillators within them that you're physically patching yourself, and then using a mixer that's digitally controlled. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, like how do you even step into that? Because when I look at your setup, I'm just like, I don't even know what button to push or what to patch first to
Yeah.
get sound out of this. And I'm an audio engineer.
I mean, I think that's also the cool thing about, drum machines or modules, is that you can give everyone in this room the exact same setup, and you would come up with, just all the different types of songs and sounds possible. For me, I mean, I know it looks confusing, but it kind of becomes an addiction. But you start with one typically, like one drum machine or one, semi-modular. My first, my first delve into this would be the DFAM. I went to the It's a drummer from another mother. It's a Moog. It's a synth, I guess, a semi-modular, and it just basically does drum beats, and then you start with that, but you're like, well, I need a sound, I need other sounds. I can't just perform with drums. So then you have to build upon that. So.
Yeah, for me, it was for me. Um, I've just always been surrounded by music, and I wanted a part of it, and I wanted to be a DJ, but it was really expensive to buy two turntables and a mixer and a microphone. Yeah, exactly. So I got a machine, Native Instruments machine, which is a hardware controller that is controlling a software instrument. So you need a computer to play it, but with
Like a hardware controller that's controlling a musical instrument.
yes, a software. So hardware controller. Uh, so that's where I started, and with that, it's a sampler. So and that's what I've wanted to do my whole life. Well, I guess my whole life, but like I've.
First instrument you started playing ever.
Oh, my first instrument that I started playing ever was my body. No, no. I got in elementary school. I took a saxophone class. Yes, and I really love the saxophone, but it's expensive. You can't buy a saxophone. Whatever. We'll talk about that later. But
I was the same. I wanted to play the, the big bass.
yep.
And those are the upright bass when I was like 5, of course. Like this big. So I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and I was able to scratch that itch by I grew up in the era of the internet, so there was a lot of great softwares and internet websites where I could go watch stuff, but then also download illegally some softwares and learn on it. And with that, it's just like I was hooked. I was like super hooked. Anything and everything that can manipulate audio, I wanted a part of it. So that's how I started. It was just sampling and trying to recreate beats that I like by sampling stuff. But then it just turned into an obsession where I had this power to be able to manipulate music, and I'm like, yes, I could time travel with sound.
Okay, so community is super important, as we all know. Having places where we can share our ideas and knowledge, and you both are very active in the community in different but similar ways, and I'd like to just sort of highlight some of that and ask, Space Racer, you specifically, do you mind telling us a little bit about SoCal Synth Society and what it's all about? Cool.
And I will say really quickly that my first instrument was the guitar, because he's a baby, but I'm old, and I did not even, they didn't have internet when I was growing up. I think I took my first computer class in college, so sent my first email in college. But yes, the SoCal Synth Society. It's an organization. It's sort of informal, but we've turned it into more of a formal thing. Started by Travarsi, my wife, another member, Abe Mora, and myself. And it was really just conceived as a way for us to get together, do DIY builds. We're into soldering and building things. And it tends to be a little bit cheaper, maybe not in labor, but to get parts and build a module or a pedal, a guitar pedal, or just anything. And it's fun, if you're into that kind of thing. It's satisfying to, take these components and put them together and then actually be able to, if it works, make sound from it or run something through it and shape the sound. And so, a few years ago, we started the Southern California Synth Society, or on IG, it's SoCal Synth Society, as a way to bring people in that wanted to learn more about synthesis, that wanted to do DIY, that were maybe, there wasn't a community organization to get together and do those things. And so over the last few years, it's grown greatly, except for the pandemic shut it down a bit. So we did live streams, but we host community events, And we do, as I said, DIY builds, and we've created a platform for female and non-binary performers. Cherish is a part of that. That's called Frequency Shift, and that just was born out of we would watch these streams or these shows, and there would be 28 dudes and like 2 women on the lineup, and so we just thought we would shift that a bit, and it's grown really organically, and we're really pleased to have that in our community now.
Yeah,
And
so SoCal Synth is on Instagram, probably all platforms, and you can find it that way, as well as Frequency Shift. And there's lots of events, there's lots of content, educational content, and a really wonderful community around that. Um, yeah, and then Mario, you're a product specialist. You're super active in the community. I have been super lucky to get to work alongside you
Thank you.
in some capacity and see how you work with other artists and folks in the community. And can you just share a little bit
Yeah.
more about what a product specialist?
Yeah. So I got the great job of being product specialist for Electron. Super grateful that I'm in this position, and I feel very honored to continue to do that. But with that comes knowing these devices and knowing how to use them, but not only knowing how to use them, being able to talk to somebody that's a potential user or an actual user and help solve problems, because you could step up to anything, and there's going to be a learning curve. You have to learn something. You have to apply the time and the energy to be able to master something that you really want to master. And sometimes you're not always met with the right information. Sometimes there's somebody telling you it could do all this, everything, and you're like, well, what can I do what I want to do? So I love asking people. They're like, can you teach me how to use this? And I'm like, can you tell me what you want to do? Which is great, because I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like with anything, like all of these stuff that we're using on stage, they're just tools.
Yeah,
And
I've seen you empower other artists in the same way that Space Racer does the same thing
yeah,
with their community, and like I think that's really powerful.
definitely. And I'm very proud of that, because if I could, make a light bulb go off for somebody else, then for me it's very fulfilling. But then also, like, just being able to spread it in different places where some people don't have access, or they don't know how to approach a certain brand. I feel like I'm able to open the door and just be like, all the homies come through, like, let's go. So it's been really, really great, and I've met some really awesome people, and people that I look up to now look at me and ask me stuff. So it's really, really a great feeling, and yeah, just super excited to be able to help other artists, because I was helped when I needed help, and I know how great that feels.
Cheers. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much. We'll take like 1 or 2 questions if you guys have them. Yeah, let's hear it. Okay.
I'm not really using it. No, I still like it. I just, I have the DFAM, and we have the Mother 32, and we built the subharmonicon. And it's like you accumulate these things, and I think they're just so hard to bring out and perform with, that you just have to scale down your setup for performing live. But definitely in the studio, I like to utilize all of those things, and it just depends on what kind of sound I want to make, or what kind of set I want to perform. So I still have it. I still like it. Yeah. It has its limitations, so I just like everything. So.
If there's, we have time for one more question, and then just want to remind everyone where they can follow your work and stay in touch. So, any other questions?
At what point does your interaction with your rig become an emotional experience?
Like instantaneously, I would say. For me, yeah, I think just loading those samples and just making, I don't know, it's different when you're composing music. It's one thing to DJ or do something like that. But when you're writing those songs or those patterns and just making it what you want, to perform it live is really an honor. So yeah, it's amazing.
That whole process is an honor, and then the moment you go live and you start seeing people react to your sound, then it's like that's it right there. Like it's awesome.
On that note, good night.